So my name is Carlos Walker, and this is Art and Hustle Black Authors Matter. How you doing, Miss Impact Aisha Childs?
I am doing amazing. How are you today?
Man, life is perfect. So, if you will, please do me one favor. Share who you are with the people and what you do.
Okay. Well, hello, people. My name is Miss Impact. I was born Aisha Childs, but I'm going by Miss Impact now. And the reason why is I have discovered my original purpose in life, and that is to impact on every level. So I am the CEO and owner of Impact Nation, where we deal with how you can impact every part of your life. So we have the physical part, we have physical trainers when it comes to health, we have spiritual impact. So we have spiritual leaders, um, prayer warriors, a lot of spiritual teaching and guiding. We have business impact, financial impact. We're also known as one of the new black banks because we work with entrepreneurs to make sure that they have the funds that they need to be able to be successful, right? Because there's no point of starting a business or it's no point of wanting to start a business if you don't have the funds that you need in order to be able to succeed. Most entrepreneurs are not successful, nor do they move forward and impact the people that they're passionate or created to impact because they don't have funding.
Mm,
So, because my desire was to be able to create something where we could offer solutions, not just to one person in one type way, that's why Impact Nation was created.
mm, that's amazing.
Thank you.
So, tell me, let's get into your book.
Yes.
So, what is the name of your book? And tell me why you wrote it, and then get into it.
All right. So, it's actually a short series, right? And the name of the series is Impact You.
Impact you.
Okay. And it starts with discovering exactly who you are. So the very first portion of the series is identity and impact, right?
Mm,
I squared, right? You have to understand and uncover who you are originally, who you are authentically, who you were created to be in this time, right? So that you can understand why you're here. Because people can't have an impact. And if you just think about the definition of impact, it is proof that you have come and encountered something else, right?
mm,
Anytime there's impact, if there's a collision, which is a synonym for impact, there's proof, there's evidence that you've encountered something. So once you understand who you are and why you're here on this earth, then you will start to have the right impact because you
yeah.
can just walk through life and impact people in all different types of ways. But in order for you to have fulfilling impact, in order for you to have lasting impact, positive impact, you have to truly understand who you are. So the very first part of the series helps people uncover who they really are, not what society has told them, not
Mm,
what Instagram or any of social media has told them, not what church has told you or your religion has told you, not what, even what your parents have told you. There's a difference between nature and nurture, and we are a product of the two. So understanding your atmosphere, understanding how you grew up, right? So one of the things that I talk about in the book, and the reason why I wrote the book, because I want to make sure I answer that question, is because I went through this long path of self discovery of trying to figure out who am I? I know the things that people told me that I should be. I have the gift of gab, and I always have since a little girl. So as a child, I just remember always saying, "You're going to be a lawyer when you grow up," because no one could ever beat me in an argument. Right? Because I'm going to research. If you say something, I'm going to go get the facts. I'm going to make sure that even if I don't win, that my facts are heard. So naturally, people thought, oh, she was going to be a lawyer. And then I moved on to, I moved through a few different religions. And so people just automatically thought, oh, she's going to be this amazing spiritual teacher. Because as I was going through my life and understanding who I was, I knew that I always wanted to share that information. So that's the
mm,
reason why. So the book wasn't intentionally written. It's just kind of like a combination of how I've been able to discover and how I've been able to kind of put together the formula to no matter what I do, no matter what field I go into, I'm impacting people. What is it about me or what is it that I'm doing? So that self-discovery helped me to identify some of the beautiful things that I was doing this impacting people, and some of those not beautiful things that I was doing
Mm-hmm.
impacting people. So peeling back, oh, you have to be hard. You have to be independent. As a Black woman growing up in this area, just by default, if you don't know the area, I'm in the DMV.
I
I
know.
grew up between Maryland and DC. So if you grew up in the neighborhoods that I grew up in the 80s, yeah, it's just expected.
Yes.
You're going to be hard. You're going to be aggressive, and I was, but that was a part of the nurture. That was a part of the nature, because
Yeah.
those two things on the inside of me, it helped me be who I needed to be to survive. But
Mhm.
now that I'm not in survival mode, I'm not ducking gunshots, I'm not in the hood anymore. I don't have to be that version of that woman anymore. So I had to get back to my authentic self. I was soft, I was warm, I was empathetic. I mean, I am all of those things, but in process and in the book, it's more of a workbook also, because it has places for you to reflect. It has space for you to be able to write the answer to some very challenging questions. I'm also a licensed life coach,
Mhm.
and I've been licensed since 2011. So I put a lot of my practice and a lot of the things that I've done with my hundreds of clients throughout the years into this book to help people really understand who they are. Because once you identify who you really are at your most authentic self, now you can start to plan for real impact. Everything else is just kind of like a fly by stance collision.
Uh, just
I
just
know that was a
listening
lot.
to what you were saying,
Hmm.
you have to be intentional with impact. Like you said, you can walk around and you're gonna be, because we were born to be influential. Somebody's gonna always see you, and somebody's always watching. So you can accidentally influence people with how you walk. I used to be a drug dealer, so uh, but I like to say I was impactful in how I pushed, and the people that worked up under me and the people that watched me. I was intentional with doing wrong. And it took me to sit down and even realize that I had impact. And you have to realize, what do you want to use your impact for? Once you dive deep inside yourself, you get to really take a glimpse at yourself and say, hey, either I don't want to do that no more, or I'm going to do it to the fullest, which everything I do to the fullest. But I didn't want that life no more. So now, just piggybacking off your book, I'm impactful and intentional with everything I do, how I speak to people, how I greet people, what I want. It says, I think the second commandment is love people like, hold on, I'm about to mess this whole verse up.
The golden rule.
Yes. Basically, love people like you love yourself.
Uh-huh.
And while a lot of us don't know how to love, but when you do find out how to do this, you
Yeah.
be impactful and intentional with giving it the way you want it given to you. This is how life's supposed to be. I treat people the way I want to be treated, not the way they treat me.
That's because you've discovered it really who you are.
I had a collision.
You had a collision.
And look, as you just said, look, hey, I had an impact. I had an encounter. Just
Uh-huh.
use every word, every word that you use. These are the things that happen, and I got to transition the way I moved in to become who I am now. So I love your book. What other is that? The only book? Well, you say it's a series, so keep going.
Yes, 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 yes. But before I talk a little bit more about this series, you said influence. That's a synonym of impact,
Mm-hmm.
right? Once, so you had an identity, right, as a drug dealer, right? And within that identity, you had a certain level of influence and a certain level of impact, right? But once you had that collision, you had an encounter, which is
Mm-hmm.
like that's like three books down. It's so funny that you use that word, because the name of that one is The Encounter. And it talks about the woman in the well. Now I know a lot of people aren't, some people may not know that story, but I bring to life, one of the things that I love doing is taking things from old and bringing it into the real world that we're in right now today to help people understand the aspects of it. That woman, she went through the same thing that you did, and she had an encounter.
She
She
ran
had an
into Jesus or
encounter,
Yahshua on the road at the well, and they had a conversation, and he knew who she was.
and she didn't know who she was.
Mm-mm.
But once she saw herself from his eyes,
She left and went back and told everybody else, look, hey, I met a man who knew exactly who I was. And this is kind of with our life. God knows who you are. And when you said it right, you hit it on the head. When you can see from God's perspective who you are, who he's called you to be, this is when your life changes. Or this is when you get the impact.
man, that woman, not only was her life impacted, she went from, now you're getting into another book called Shame No More. She went from being alone at the well. So she went to the well at the high time of the day. Normally, traditionally, women are not there. But because of her status, because of her past, because of what she was known to be and her situation, she didn't even want to be around the other women. This is why she encountered Jesus at an off time. It says it was the 6th hour of the day. It went out.
So you were saying about the impact of the collision.
Yes. So she had no idea that she was going to be transformed. And because of the encounter that she had, her whole identity was transformed. She went from being a woman full of shame, not wanting to be around anyone, to being the voice. She dropped her water at the well. The whole
Mm.
reason why she came, and went to the people who were shaming her and started to proclaim. She told everyone. She became a witness. See, this is what happens when you have a real encounter with God. You get the ability to see yourself from his perspective and not from what society says, or not what your
Mm-hmm.
past says, or not what anyone thinks, or what people believe you should be. You have a true, now you understand your true identity. So once she understood who she was after her encounter, her whole identity changed. She had no more shame. Book number
Yeah,
3, Shame No More. She had
she,
no more shame. She became a witness
that's
because
impact.
of the encounter, and went back to the same people and didn't care about their opinions. She didn't even care about their thoughts. And that's the same position that God wants us in. And the reason why Impact Nation exists, because God wants to impact every part of our lives, our physical life, our spiritual life, our entrepreneurial life. Because the things that, one more, it's not even a shameless plug because it's a part of the series. I work with women and we're studying the Proverbs 31 woman.
Ah,
She had
amazing woman.
she was an entrepreneur like no other, sir. An entrepreneur, the sources of income that she created with one idea. She took one idea and turned it into another source of income, took a portion of that income and turned it into other streams of income that can make money for her even when her and her servants were asleep. This is the type of impact that God wants for us. And that's the whole reason why Impact Nation was created. That was the whole point of starting with the series, because I didn't want to put everything in one book. One, because I understand human behavior and I understand that we want things short. We want it to be impactful, right? So I wanted
Impact.
to make sure that I created something that came with a whole lot of punch, one punch and a whole lot of weight behind it. And so that's why it was more of a series, and that's why it's really interactive. Because I understand, it's out there. If you want to hide something from Black people, put it in a book, right?
That's the reason, just let you know, that's the reason why I decided to take and do 29 black authors for 29 days because of that saying. I didn't even have to say it. God got you in the vein. You didn't say it.
Where'd you go?
I created was just because of that same saying. If you put it in a book, what they you say? If you put it, hold on, I forgot the saying again.
Want to hide something from a Black person, put it in the
Put it
book.
in the book. And because of that
Mhm.
saying, it made me want to, and because I've become an author. Because at one point I did not read, but when I started reading, I understood that reading is a, what's the way I like, a cheat code. And I get information from other people who already been through, and it just takes me higher because I do not have to take and go through the process that somebody else done went through to get there. So you get to skip levels, and this is mainly the reason. And if you read, you get those levels. Now I understand the ability to these days listen to ebooks and things, but
Mhm.
that the exercise of opening up a book is
Yes.
different. The exercise really working your mind. We are three-part beings. You got physical, mental, spiritual, but then you have through three ways of learning, which is auditory, visual, kinesthetic, touch and feel, and you have to learn how to exercise or be intentional, be
Mhm.
impactful with each one of them in order to grow. So, if you will, name all your books. Also, name where they can find your books. And then I need a word of wisdom.
All right. So some of the others that are in series are I'm still working on and I haven't released them yet. They will be, the books that I'm working on in the series will be released within the month of February.
Okay.
Because this is, like I said, a project I've been working on for a while. But the very first book that people will be able to pick up will be Identity and Impact, the two I's. And they'll be able to go to impactnation.com, also to missimpact.org. And I'll make sure to send you all of those links so people will be able to access it. Because there we also offer entrepreneurship training, because I touched on that. You have to be able to be financially free, and that's not going to work with one source of income. You have to understand who you are, because if God gives us the power to get wealth, then your wealth is on the inside of you,
I
and it's
promise.
not for somebody else. It's not working for someone else. That's something that you can do. When I had a day job, I would tell people, I'd be like, hey, this is where I'm getting all my seed from. It's not my boss. It's my farm kind of. I'm going to go get some seed, and now I'm gonna go ahead and sow the
Mm-hmm.
seed, and who I am on the inside. Because I and the word of wisdom, it goes right into my word of wisdom. Spend more time on yourself than you do any job.
Mm.
If
Good
you can
God.
give a job 8 hours, just over broke 8 hours of your time, you should be able to give your future, the true you, your identity, your purpose, why you were called to be here, that same energy. Because if you don't give that same time and energy to yourself and your purpose, you'll be just over broke forever.
And you won't have no impact. So,
No impact.
but you have a little bit. It
A
just
little
be
bit.
that impact that you walk around and people gather from you, but you won't be able to fulfill the purpose and the impact God has for you. So, Miss
Yes,
Childs, it has been an honor. And I want to make sure that I stay in touch with you because, hey,
please do. This will be the first of many.
you
Okay.
are impactful.
As are you, Mr. Walker.
Peace and blessings. This is Art and Hustle Black Authors Matter, and this is Miss Impact Aisha Styles. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Peace and blessings.